BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Bradshaw and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Thursday the 20th of February. This morning we're indebted to Philippe Clement and Rangers for their outstanding performances in Europe, which means there's no European action for a Scottish club tonight, so today we're taking a look beyond the Scottish Premiership and Scotland's grooviest leagues. So, coming up, have Falkirk got themselves back into a league-winning groove?
Oh, it's a goal! This place has erupted! Incredible stuff. I think it's Scotty Arfield with the goal. And it is 2-2.
What next for Partick Thistle as club legend Kris Doolan exits the manager's seat?
Partick Thistle have announced the departure of manager Kris Doolan. He led the club to 2 playoff campaigns as head coach, with the side currently 4th in the championship, 10 points off 3rd spot and 14th off league leaders Falkirk.
Plus, a roundup of everything that's been happening in League 1 and League 2, and can anyone, and I mean anyone, call the SWPL.
The Scottish Football Podcast.
So yes, hello and welcome to the podcast today. We're joined by 2 esteemed guests. We have Marvin Bartley, former Livy assistant manager, Queen of the South manager, and Craig Telfer, Stenhousemuir fan and host of BBC Scotland's The View from the Terrace, which is back on your screens tomorrow from noon on iPlayer. Marvin, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Very well, yourself?
I'm good. You chucking your name in for the Thistle job?
Who knows, mate? I've had it's nearly been a year now. I wanted a bit of time off, but probably the last 3 or 4 months, I've managed to start travelling around clubs, mainly down in England, but I've been abroad a couple of times as well. I'm getting my eye back in. So yeah, listen, it's a brilliant job, isn't it, for anybody?
You say that I'm a Thistle fan. I don't know if it is. Also, I love when managers go, yeah, I wanted a bit of time off. Then after the 6-month mark, they're like, yeah, not this much time off. What is happening? And Craig Telfer, Stenny flying high in League 1 after winning League 2 last year, but also View from the Terrace is back. Are you excited?
Yeah, very excited. Very excited on both fronts. This is as good as it's ever been following Stenhousemuir and as good as it's ever been working on A View from the Terrace. We're back filming the first episode today, and the first episode back is always so much fun because you've got about 3 months of football to catch up on. So analysing what's going on in the leagues, the best players, the best goals, and looking forward to the weekend stuff. So it's going to be absolutely jam-packed. So please do tune in.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. So let's get kicked off. We get some brilliant talking points today. So let's start with my beloved Kris Doolan, who exited from Partick Thistle on Tuesday. Marvin, the teams are still in the playoff. When you found out this news, did you think it was harsh or do you think it was quite a justified parting of ways?
It's a difficult one, Ray, because you never want to see anybody lose their job. But you know Partick, as being a fan, that you backed Kris in the summer. And I think the club just looked at it that, the top 3 have kind of created that gap now, haven't they? And although you sit in 4th place, you're a lot closer to the teams in 5th and 6th, with Morton having games in hand and Wraith Rovers being exactly the same. And, your current form, I think, is 1 win in 7. I actually covered the game against Hamilton for the BBC when you won that game. And they just don't look like the same team as last season. I know you lost some big players. Stephen Lawless had the big injury. Jack McMillan obviously went down to Exeter. And Brian Graham's a year older, so... It's one of those things that I wasn't really that surprised. I think Kris probably saw it was coming. But as I said, it's never nice to see somebody lose their job. But as I said, it's a massive job for somebody now with a team with, I think you've got 30 or 31 professional players there as well. So obviously the club, as I said, have clearly backed him. And, hopefully someone can go in and whoever gets the job and get you guys in the playoffs.
Yeah, we're down. We lost 8 players during the January transfer window. We brought 2 in. And I feel like going out the cups really affected us because it's almost like we budgeted for a Rangers or Celtic or Hearts or something like that. Like Craig Telfer, as a fan, like we said at the start, Stenhousemuir, as good as it's been so far, do you think for the Thistle fans, like they've put a lot of pressure on Doolan recently? Like Marvin was saying, there's a gap between the top 3 of Falkirk, Ayr and Livy. Do you think the Jags fans are expecting too much?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think when you look at the top 4 clubs in the Championship, they're all broadly similar sized. And when you're going into the start of the season, you would have said that Partick Thistle were one of the 4 clubs that could challenge to, not just challenge for promotion, but to challenge to win the title. And to see them so far off the pace at this stage, it almost feels like they're in a bit of a false position given how poor their form is. And as Marvin says, you've got Morton and Raith Rovers just like creeping up behind them with games in hand in them. And it feels, you'll know a lot better than me, Ray, but it feels like the correct decision, but a decision that no one at the club's happy with that has been made. I think that of all the fan bases in Scotland, no one wanted Kris Doolan to succeed as their manager to succeed as much as Partick Thistle did. But having watched the highlights of the game against Raith Rovers at the weekend, they were hapless. I don't like saying that, but that's the only way to describe the performance. They looked second best, lacked aggression, defended the first 2 goals really poorly. And if there was one moment in that game that just summed up where Partick Thistle are at the moment, it was Stuart Bannigan giving away that penalty. One of the most experienced players on the pitch who just has a complete head loss, spoken to by the referee for getting a shoving match with Jamie Gullen. And then when the corner kick does come in, puts a 2-handed shove in him to shove over, and is substituted not long after the penalty goes in. But as Marvin says, I think it's a really good job for someone to go in and get their hands in. I think guys like Ian Murray, it feels like he's ready made to go in and take the job. But I do think there is a bit of work there. A lot of players there, but the squad does feel a bit imbalanced. And I think some of the key players who have gone in there, guys like Kyle Turner, Caballo Megwa, a lot was expected from them, and I don't necessarily think we've seen a return on investment from them.
Yeah, definitely. Turner's was brilliant with us before, and he's been playing right back a lot because Megwa's not really come in as much. It seems a bit shambolic, like you're saying, imbalanced. We didn't really have a striker on Saturday. We got Terry Blady on loan, whereas Brian Graham was suspended. Our other strikers out on loan at Airdrie scoring for them. So it just seems a bit odd. Ian Murray was mentioned there by Craig there. Marvin, what kind of manager do you think Thistle will be looking for? Have you heard any other names been thrown in there?
Yeah, I've heard a few fans have mentioned Neil Lennon on the phone in that I did do. And it's one of them.
Hey, let's not plug other shows, Marvin.
I won't say what show it was. But, it's one of them, isn't it? Because budgets determine how well you can do. You speak about Ian Murray and Rafe, again, a team with a massive budget last season, and they were probably expected to be closer to first place than they were. It didn't happen. And then, unfortunately, at the start of this season, Ian loses his job. So yeah, listen, there's been a few names. Dougie Emery's another one that I've seen, done a really, really good job at Morton. Rarely gets probably the respect that he deserves for what he does there. So yeah,
they're kind of going under the radar, Morton, haven't they? Because was it they're unbeaten in 11? 12, a lot of draws, albeit games. 12 it is now. Wow.
Yeah. So
do you think? Can you imagine Dougie Emery coming to Thistle?
Yeah, I can imagine him going anywhere. I could. Why could you not?
No, I genuinely couldn't. I honestly couldn't. The amount of abuse that his man is taking from the terraces at Firhill, I'd be surprised. Are you Ash earlier? Are you throwing your name in the hat there?
No, I'm doing nothing. I'm going to walk my dog after this, right? That's all I'm doing, mate. But listen, I'm definitely going to get back in. I definitely want to get back in. And I said, whether that's towards the end of this season or, actively again next season, whatever, coach, assistant manager, whatever it might be, I'll definitely get back involved in football because that's what I want to do. I enjoy the punditry stuff, but yeah, it's one of those things now. I want to get back on the grass.
And Craig, Neil Lennon was mentioned there, maybe with Marvin as his number 2. Who knows? It could be a match made in heaven. What do you think? Do you think there's any credibility in that? And is Thistle known as a relative banter club every now and then? Do you think Neil Lennon and Partick Thistle are a match made in heaven?
I think that Neil Lennon, when the going's good, from speaking to players that have worked under Neil Lennon, when the going's good, it's absolutely fantastic, and he is top of the world to be around. And I think that when the going's not so good, he can be quite a prickly character. So I just think at the moment, I think at Thistle, there's a lot of big personalities there. I think there's quite the squad needs sorted out. I got that impression from the weekend there that all's not quite well. Just going by watching the highlights against Raith Rovers, so it's going to take quite a big personality to go and sort them out. And Brian Graham's taking the job on an interim basis. That's him doing 3 gigs at the club now, as well as managing the women's team. And I don't know if the finances are there to go and source someone like externally, but I think that Graham could make that step up, and who knows, Brian Graham and Marvin Bartley assistant. Want to fond him.
Okay, let's move on to the race for the championship title before I cry after Kris Doolan leaving. An interesting results at the weekend. Do you think Falkirk have got themselves back into the groove after the last couple of results? Obviously, they beat Thistle a couple of weeks ago and then fighting back from 2-0 down to go 2 each with Ayr. Scott Arfield coming in. Do you think they've got the momentum again after a little dip in form?
Yeah, listen, they had a dip in form, didn't they? First time probably in 18 months after going unbeaten in League One and then starting the Championship, absolutely flying. I think the sign of Scott Arfield was a timely one. I do think there was a dip in form again, getting knocked out of the cup by Wraith Rovers. They then, changed shape. The first time they've done that for a long, long time. Bringing in Scott Arfield back. Luke Graham came back from Dundee as well. A massive loan signing from them. Eamon Brophy came in the window as well. So I think they've had a really good January window. And like you said, coming back from 2-0 down against Ayr, it would have felt like a win to them in terms of morale for those players because, Ayr have been absolutely flying, second in the league. So to do that would be absolutely huge for them. And now it's about kicking on again. I think they play Morton on Friday. So it'll be one of those games, a real difficult one, going away to Morton. But if they can get a win in that game, then I'll definitely agree with you. They'll be looking and thinking, right, this is our time to get our second win and push on. Not long to go now. And, they'll be really thinking how they can win that league.
Yeah, what a Friday night for football fans. Falkirk against Morton, then a view from the terrace back in your screens, Craig Telfer. Can you ask for any more? When you look at Falkirk come back, Marvin saying, I'd even forgot they signed Eamon Brophy. That seems so long ago. What about Ayr United? What about Livy? They play each other this weekend. We said earlier, 3-horse race. Who do you think's in the driving seat, Craig?
I think Ayr United are in the driving seat. I think that they had a little dip earlier in the season. I think that culminated with going out of the SPFL Trust Trophy to East Kilbride. I think that was a game when they were really, really poor. And since then, though, it looks like Scott Brown, I don't know what he's done, but that really felt like a fork in the road moment for United. Since then, their form has been absolutely tremendous and they have pulled themselves back into contention. At one point, Falkirk had quite a substantial gap there. Now that gap's been closed, although they're still in pole position. But Ayr United, been really, really impressed by them. I think impressed by guys like Ben Dempsey in the middle of the park. I think he's a real dynamic presence, gives the team a lot of thrust, and he's having an absolutely fantastic season. And further forward, I think like Jay Henderson in the wing, one of the trickiest players in the division, and George Oakley is just like a guarantee of goals. If you can put the ball into the box on top of his head, he will score from it, and that's what we're seeing from them. I think that if there was to pick a weakness in Ayr United, it's and this is a player that Marvin will know well. I didn't think Harry Stone had that good a game against Falkirk at the weekend. I think it was a pretty straightforward shot that came into him that he spilled that allowed Arfield to score and equalise in the game. Could have maybe done better with the first goal as well, although he's perhaps unsighted. And I think that's something where, if there's one criticism of Scott Brown this season, it's he's chopped and changed his goalkeepers. I think they might have gone through 3 or 4 goalies over the course of the season, and I just think that's the kind of thing that, if you're number one, if you've got a number one, you can allow to make mistakes because he knows the position's his and that gives him the confidence. And I just don't know what he'll be thinking in terms of his goalkeeper after the weekend. That aside, I would fancy Ayr to get the better of Livingston here.
Oh, big talk. We'll let Marvin, your old club Livingston. I saw David Martindale linked with, I think, Cambridge United this week. I think that'd be lovely seeing David Martindale cut about the mean streets of Cambridge. That is a match that I think I would love to see. It seems like for Livy, when I've seen them play us, I think they've been very good. They nullified us a few different times. They can beat Falkirk, but sometimes they don't seem to be able to beat off teams from lower down the league. Is that something that you think will haunt them this season?
Yeah, I think it's been a frustrating time for Davey, as you said. When they're coming up against the Ayr United and the Falkirk, he'll fancy his team all day long. Partick Thistle being up there as well, but it's probably the lower teams that they've struggled to really punish. At times, they've dropped too many points against teams that they shouldn't have. But you said they've got a real experienced team, and like you said, they managed to nullify the more attacking teams. But I think it's when it's time for Livingston maybe to attack more that they've found it a little bit more difficult, although they've had some injuries at the top end as well. So it'd be one of those things, David was just saying to the players, almost just sit there in the slipstream and kind of see what happens. Everyone else concentrate on Falkirk and Ayr. And then, when you get to the last few games, if we're in touching distance, can we overturn that point gap and finish top of the league? But as I said, there's a lot of experienced players there who've been over it over the course, in the top flight, to be honest. So yeah, listen, they'll fancy themselves as well. As Craig said there, Ayr United, we've spoken about Falkirk. There's really 3 teams that if any of them won it, you wouldn't be that surprised can come into the season.
Let's move on to some other leagues. Let's get into League One. Craig, you're a Stenhousemuir fan, very well known for being a Stenhousemuir fan and eating a pie in the terraces. I saw a lovely picture of you doing the rounds everywhere. Your hair looked lovely in it. Stenny, third place just now. The League One, every time you look at it, I look at it maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, there's a different team at the top. It was Kelty for a bit and it seems to be changed. Stenny are third just now. It's been very tight all season. Are they still in the hunt for the league?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's crazy. In the summer, if you'd offered me 8th place, I'd have bitten your hand off for it.
Yes.
Which seems absolutely ridiculous now. And I should have learned at this stage now to have a lot more faith in Gary Naismith and his group of players, because they are a really, really confident bunch. And they came into this league thinking they could challenge for the title. There was no Falkirk, there was no Hamilton, no big full-time side in the division, so it really was wide open. And they're playing Arbroath on Saturday. It's 5:30 kickoff for the BBC Alba cameras. And on one hand, well, I'm really fortunate that the team are even with a third of the season to go, title contenders. I'd still be disappointed if they don't win it, and I'm sure the players would be that way, because you don't work as hard to get to this stage of the season and be in contention to lose it. And I think Arbroath are a very good side. They have signed very well. I think their board have really pushed the boat out to try and win the title, bringing in Sam Stanton from Raith Rovers. Should never be in League One, a player of his quality. To keep Fraser Taylor on loan from St Mirren for the second half of the season. Another player who I think once this season finishes will go and make an impact in the St Mirren first team. They're a really good side. But I just... You can't write off this Stenhousemuir side. There's a resilience and team spirit there that's absolutely fantastic, and just having the time of my life watching them, it's an absolute privilege. It's great to go every week. You know, as a fan, you've had managers that you've hated, players you've hated, and you just go on a Saturday just out of habit. But it really feels like every time I step up to watch Stenhousemuir, it feels like a real religious experience at the moment. It's fantastic. Love it.
It's so nice to hear that, but I think we all know it won't last, which is even better. Is even better. Marvin, you've managed in this league. It's all very tight this season, competitive. I think for a lot of outsiders who maybe look at League One this season, the two teams we'll be looking at will be Dumbarton and Inverness with the big points deduction. It looks like Inverness will probably relegation playoff. Do you think they could even manage 7th, 6th, 5th? I think form, if you take off the 14 points, I think they'd be 3rd or 4th in league. Do you think they can make it out of that, Marvin?
Yeah, I think they will. I really do. I think they'll be maybe even higher in the league than that. So I think Inverness will make it out of there. As you said, unfortunately, went into administration. But as Craig said there, it's a real open one this season. Obviously, I was at Queen of the South before, and it seemed they found a budget this season to go out and sign players, and they've really pushed the boat out. But even with that being said, they've struggled. I don't think they've won an away game all season. So it's one of those things that they've really found hard. And as Craig said there, it's a real tight season. I think the first season I was in there, Dunfermline went unbeaten throughout the whole season. Second season, Falkirk went unbeaten throughout the whole season. So it's one of those things. But I really do think anyone can win it. If I had to bet, I'd bet on Arbroath. I just think, with the players that they have signed, and again, speaking about experience, that they will do it. But yeah, as I said, I think there's a few clubs in that league, Queen of the South being one, who've pushed the budget out. I think they looked at Inverness going into administration and thought this is our massive chance. So it'd be interesting to see where they finish up. But yeah, Inverness for me, that they'll make it out. I really do believe that they'll make it out of that playoff spot, which would be a magnificent season. Considering, I've been in administration before. It's not just the point deduction. I think they've got maybe 13 senior players, but the mental side of it as well. When you look at that league table and realise you've lost those points, you think to yourself, oh no, we're in big, big trouble here. So I managed to do it when we had a 21-point deduction. We managed to finish 3rd from bottom. And, I think they will. 15-point deduction, I think they'll get out of there.
It's just crazy. We'll glaze over League Two a little bit, because it seems like East Fife are control. Forfar seem to be the team that they're slipping down. I think we can both agree that. Would you agree with that, Marvin and Craig?
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Forfar, isn't it? Go on, Craig.
I'd agree with Marvin and Forfar. It just seems that at this stage, I know they've got 2 games in hand over Bonnyrigg, but it just feels like you can't see them turning it around. And East Fife played Peterhead this weekend. I know there's a 4-point gap between the sides, but I think that if East Fife can get the win, then that opens up a 7-point gap, and it's not insurmountable, but it is very difficult to try and overcome, especially at this stage of the season. Yeah,
Dick Campbell's Bunnet will be looking at a lovely new one, like a wedding day. If we're going through the leagues, we cannot miss out on the SWPL one just now, because I can't remember a league like this in Scotland for a long time. You've got Rangers, Glasgow City, Celtic and Hibs all level after 21 games on 51 points. It's incredible. Marvin, which way do you see this going? If you're a betting man right now, bear in mind you'd be an absolute idiot to pick one, but who would you pick to win the league?
Well, I'd want it to be Hibs. I actually would want it to be them. And I think they're probably, out of all the odds, they'll probably be in fourth place for it. With Celtic playing in the Champions League this season, obviously, we all know Rangers, and they've been a real force, and Glasgow City as well. They've been there and done it in recent years before, Celtic and Rangers kind of emerged as teams, and now there's a real battle on their hands. But like you said, it's fantastic to watch, 4 teams up there, all level on points. No one could have dreamt of that. I don't think we've not only not seen it in Scottish football, I don't think in football before at this point of the season, 4 teams who really all believe that they can win it. So yeah, it's been a really good one to watch. Long may it continue, but I'd love for Hibs to do it, because as I said, I think they're the real underdogs in this one. But if I was a betting man, I had to bet my last pound, Ray, because I'm skint now, mate. I would probably bet on Celtic, if I'm honest, to go and win it. And I don't know why I've picked them. I probably watched them most this season when the missus had it on the TV, so I'd probably pick Celtic, yeah.
I love you saying skint. Marvin, I've seen you in it. I know the holidays you go on. Who are you kidding? Craig Telfer, who are you picking from this? It's so exciting, isn't it?
Marvin's absolutely correct. And I think that what we've seen in the SPFL almost become like every season a 3-horse race. You Glasgow City, your establishment club, and then Rangers and Celtic. Glasgow City, the establishment club in terms of the SWPL, but then Rangers and Celtic, 2 teams attached to the 2 biggest men's clubs in the country that are spending a lot of money from it, becomes a 3-horse race. And the fact that Hibernian are neck and neck with these teams at the moment, it's probably one of the success stories in Scottish football this season, given the size of Hibernian relative to the rest of the teams in division. I don't think they will last the pace, however, and I hope that's not the case. But if I had to bet on anyone, it would probably be, I'll just go against Marvin, I'll bet Rangers.
One of us is going to win, mate. It'll be Glasgow City. I'll let you go Glasgow City, mate.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm a Thistle fan. I'll go for the hipster team. That makes sense, doesn't it? It's lovely been flying through the leagues, and I think it's nice to go through a Scottish football podcast without mentioning the words top 6. That has been nice. That's all we've got time for. Many thanks to Marvin Bartley and Craig Telfer, and thank you for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so to make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on your phone. Thanks for listening. Keep a lookout on the lower leagues, and even more so, keep a lookout on Marvin Bartley's return to management. A View from the Terrace is back tomorrow from noon on iPlayer. Tune in and enjoy.
On BBC Sounds. From life aboard a Russian submarine to chairman of Hearts Football Club.
At this stage, he was the hero.
But as his controversial decisions escalated...
They said, we're going to sack George. And I'm going, you can't do this.
How did Vladimir Romanov go from Hearts saviour to a wanted man?
It caused a whole load of chaos and havoc.
Romanov, Tsar of Hearts. Listen now on BBC Sounds.